Hello and welcome to Healing Begins Here, brought to you by the Victim Service Center of Central Florida. I'm Olivia Oropeza, VSC's Prevention Education Manager, and I'm so glad you're joining us today. Before we begin, please note that today's conversation will include topics related to sexual violence and substance use. If at any point you need support, the Victim Service Center is here for you with free, confidential services. You can reach out to us anytime through our 24/7 helpline at 407-500-HEAL or 407-500-4325. Everyone deserves a safe night out, whether that's at a bar, a club, a concert, or any space where we go to relax, connect, and have fun. Unfortunately, all too often, that isn't the reality of people's experience. Abusers deliberately take advantage of nightlife settings where people are meeting new friends, enjoying drinks, letting their guards down, to then harass, manipulate, or commit acts of violence, including drug-facilitated sexual assault. But here in Orlando, we're working to change that. The Victim Service Center is developing a new training program designed specifically for bar staff and event venues. This program equips staff with the tools to recognize red flags, step in safely, and know what resources are available, helping to prevent violence before it happens and ensuring that everyone has the safe, enjoyable night out they deserve. To start this conversation, I'm joined by someone who knows Orlando's hospitality scene inside and out, Michael Coon. Michael has managed and served in some of the city's top restaurants and venues for over 25 years and is here to share his wisdom on keeping staff and patrons safe. Michael, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely, thank you.
So I want to ask you, in your multiple decades of experience working in hospitality and in the service industry, what are some of the most common safety concerns that you see happen in these public spaces?
Safety-wise, I'd say it really comes to alcohol awareness. A lot of situations that arise start with alcohol. So of course, alcohol consumption is always important because one leads to the other. So that's always a big safety concern. So again, monitoring the alcohol consumption, but then also making sure that your employees are aware of their surroundings and how they should handle guests that may be getting intoxicated. So again, awareness all around is very important.
Yeah, so alcohol being one of the big influencers or components in this equation of maybe danger or abusive situations in these public spaces, right? Alcohol being the slippery slope there. And then also, having staff that is trained and confident to respond to maybe some possibly unsafe situations is also important.
Very important,
Yeah.
very important.
So as a manager, what are some of your biggest struggles in maintaining a safe environment for your staff and for those patrons, with alcohol involved? If somebody's drinking too much or if somebody's starting to get rowdy, how do you best respond to those while keeping everyone else safe?
Yeah, as a manager, it's funny, it brings me back to when I was a bartender and I would see my manager sometimes standing off to the side of the restaurant or the bar. Like, look at him just stand there, like he's just standing there. It wasn't until I became a manager that I realized that even when you're standing there, you're actually doing a lot more. What you're doing is monitoring the surroundings. You're watching everybody when they're consuming food or alcohol to see signs, see if you can pick up on signs of someone maybe getting a little intoxicated, or see if maybe they're crossing that bridge that they shouldn't be crossing. So again, you're really kind of monitoring everything that's going on. You're watching the employees, are they over-serving people? Are they pouring what they should be pouring? So even when you see your manager just standing off to the side, it might not just be because they have nothing else to do. They should be taking in everything that's going on in the surroundings. And again, it's your job to make sure that you are going to provide. So if you can catch something ahead of time, you might be able to stop something before it happens. Again, monitoring the alcohol consumption, which unfortunately, it really always kind of goes back to the alcohol consumption.
Yeah.
It is the root cause for most, not all, but most.
Yeah, most incidents that you see. I mean, it's true for us as well that most cases of drug-facilitated sexual assault are facilitated using alcohol. And so we know that a lot of these experiences are stemming from public nightlife venues, public bars, restaurants, and places like that. So do you have any experience in helping your staff feel more prepared to handle situations where, maybe they recognize a patron is over intoxicated or maybe acting as if they're under the influence of something, or if someone else is maybe crossing someone's boundaries and we think this could turn into a situation? How do you help staff feel prepared to deal with those situations?
Yeah, when we do our meetings, it is something that obviously we will discuss, we'll talk about, and again, looking for those signs and making sure that they're comfortable. Again, as a bartender or a server, not over-serving someone.
Right.
Again, if someone becomes too friendly, again, we discuss different options to be able to remove yourself from a situation, which is, unfortunately, it is a pretty common occurrence.
Right.
One person might just think they're being nice and they're just being friendly, but the person they're being nice and friendly to might feel very uncomfortable. And again,
Right.
everyone's standard and limits is different.
Right.
So what you might think is very harmless, someone else might feel like, wait a minute, you're crossing that line. So again, but then they have to feel comfortable coming to the management team as well and saying, hey, I'm not really comfortable with the person I'm serving over here. And then, of course, there's a couple different options we can put in place there
Yeah.
to try to overcome that circumstance. Again, it's hard to just stop everything, but we try to do whatever we can to try to prevent it or limit as much as we can.
Yeah. So when you see a staff member who is maybe handling a patron that's had too much to drink or is, crossing that staff member's boundaries, and when they come to you and say, hey, I don't want to serve this person anymore, or I need help with this, managers need to listen up and respond in a way that supports that staff.
Absolutely. And sometimes a lot of times it'll be as simple as putting a different server with that particular guest.
Yeah.
I just had that happen recently. The guy wasn't out of line, but the server that he had, he just kind of wouldn't. He just wanted to keep talking to her. Again, he didn't cross any lines, but to a point to where she felt uncomfortable.
Right.
So we simply just made a change and had a different server. As a manager, you go over and say, hey, so sorry for the inconvenience. Going to have someone else take over now. I'm going to have to use that other server somewhere else.
Right.
Again, so you can do little situations to, doesn't always resolve it because you might still want to track her down.
Right.
But you try to do what you can to resolve a situation nicely and politely and kindly
Right.
Before it could become a situation.
Before it
really.
escalates
Yeah.
into something maybe dangerous or harmful.
Yep.
So what do you see as possible benefits for a training for bar staff, restaurant staff, in having that level of awareness of over-intoxication, of that maybe dangerous individual? What benefit do you see for business owners and for patrons to go to a place that is trained like that?
It's definitely beneficial because, again, people want to go to a fun, safe place as well. So if you have if your venue, if your business has a reputation for not being safe or welcoming, you might not be getting the maximum amount of business you want.
Right.
Simply because there might be X amount of people that say, well, I don't want to go there. It's whatever it may
Right.
be. Feeling unsafe, again, by providing a safe, fun place. And it's a hard line because you want it to be social. The whole idea is to be social with everyone, to be nice, to be friendly, to meet people. But on the same hand, there is lines.
Right.
And we got to make sure that people aren't crossing those lines. So you try to do what you can. Again, as a manager, watching, as a bartender or a server, monitoring the people that you're serving,
Right.
not letting them getting too intoxicated.
Right.
So you do the best that you can to try to limit the
Right.
circumstances.
To try to manage, that area that you're in charge of, right? Those staff, those patrons that are within your space and building, making sure everyone has a safe and fun time.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And so as we, exist in Orlando, which has a lot of great nightlife venues, a lot of great restaurants, a lot of great places for people just to go out and exist and have fun, how can we best provide a safe, supportive, system for staff, for restaurants, for bars when someone comes in and says, hey, I experienced drug-facilitated sexual assault, or I experienced something in your venue? Right? How do managers
Right.
need to respond?
I think simply educating everybody all around, from the management down to the employees. Education, I think, is important. And again, it's unfortunate you're not going to reach everybody. If you have a staff of 100, not everybody's going to take out of what you're giving them.
Right.
But even if you're reaching some of them, I think it's still a win. Even if some of them are saying, I never thought about that, but now that they mention that, it makes me aware of it. So now instead of me just walking to my car at the end of the night, I'm going to make sure I walk with somebody else or maybe a group of people. And in my experience, in my 25 plus years in Orlando, I would say most places I've been, if not all, I've seen them really good about that, whether
Yeah.
it's management or security or somebody partnering up, walking with each other to the car.
Right.
Again, just so everybody feels safe and secure. Again, try to limit any potential problems there might be.
You can never underestimate the power of planting a seed of
Right.
that, beginning, training, education, those talks. Well, Michael, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing your expertise in hospitality management and talking about how we can help keep our staff and patrons safe.
Of course, absolutely. Thank you.
If you've only ever been a patron, or even if you work in hospitality, it can be surprising just how prevalent abuse and violence can be in nightlife settings. The more we have these conversations and normalize these important topics, the more we can prevent victimization and keep Orlando's venues safe and enjoyable for everyone. We encourage anyone in the nightlife industry to reach out to Victim Service Center to learn more about our free prevention training for bar and hospitality staff, a step that can make a real difference in the safety of Orlando's hotspots. In addition to the general public that enjoys Orlando's nightlife, Orlando is home to a vibrant student community and one of the largest universities in the country. College students face some of the highest rates of sexual victimization, making awareness and prevention in nightlife spaces even more critical. Stay tuned as we meet with the Director of Victim Services from UCF to learn more about these risks and how training for bars and venues can help keep our students safe. Welcome back to Healing Begins Here. On this episode, we've been discussing some of the dangers present in nightlife settings and social spaces here in Orlando. These risks are especially high for young adults in college. According to RAINN, women ages 18 to 24 who are college students are 3 times more likely than women in general to experience sexual violence. And for male students in the same age range, the risk is 78% higher compared to their non-student peers. These numbers remind us just how important it is to focus on prevention and strong support systems for students. Joining us now is Laura Valley, Director of Victim Service Centers at UCF, to talk about the unique challenges college students face and how her team works to keep them safe and supported. Laura, thank you so much for joining us today.
Of course, thank you for having me.
So to start us off, can you share a little bit of the work that you do at UCF Victim Services and how you help support students?
Absolutely. So at UCF Victim Services, we work with any student, faculty, staff member, or guest of our campus or regional campuses who find themselves victims of crime. We provide confidential support for them, and we're available 24/7. So what that means is that a student could call our 24/7 hotline or text line and speak with us confidentially about their situation. We'll provide them resources, we'll provide them their options, kind of ask them what their next step is that they would like to do and to seek justice for their crime. And then from there, we'll support them in that decision. So if their decision is to report to the university, we'll be there with them right by their side. If their decision is to seek counseling, we'll help them find counseling and go with them to their first appointment. Health services, whatever they need, and just to be that constant person throughout their entire process.
That's an incredible resource for UCF students and guests to be able to have on campus, especially when we understand statistics and the prevalence, especially in college. Mm-hmm. And as they go out to maybe bars, clubs, nightlife events, we know that there are more risk factors present for these folks. So can you talk to us a little bit about these risk factors that are present for them at Orlando nightlife venues, bars, etc.?
Yeah, for sure. So in general with college students, most college students that we see who are impacted by crime are typically, their first time in college, and they don't really know the area. They might be out of state, so they might not have as many close friends, or maybe they're an international student and they've just never experienced what it's like to go out in nightlife. And so one of the biggest risk factors is going out by yourself. So we definitely encourage students to go out together, to go in groups. The other aspect specifically for UCF students is the aspect of getting down to Orlando for our nightlife. So UCF is about 20 to 25 minutes on a good day, no traffic, to get downtown. And so some students, if they drive themselves and they go out downtown, they might not have a way to come back because you don't drink and drive.
Right.
And so that's a huge barrier that we see for our college students.
I see. So many of them being first-time students, maybe they don't know the lay of the land, safe places, maybe some places that might have reputations, and then trying to get back home after a night out might be some places where we especially see some vulnerability or some additional risk factors show up.
Absolutely.
So what are some of the most common factors that you see in cases of victimization from nightlife that tend to maybe repeat themselves?
Yeah, for sure. So I've definitely seen some repetitive risk factors in some of the cases that we've experienced with our students. Probably the biggest is the aspect of going out with friends and then your friends leaving you. and you're by yourself. And so we are very much at UCF talking about bystander intervention and what that means to be there for somebody if you notice that someone might need some help. If you notice that someone came with friends and then now it looks like they're leaving alone, can you talk to them? And sticking by your friends. So that's the biggest one. The second would just be overall alcohol use. And so a lot of times people talk about drug facilitated sexual assault. And for us, what we see as the number one drug is alcohol.
Right.
And either the overconsumption of alcohol or maybe just that slight one too many drink, or in the very rare cases of some kind of drug being placed
Right.
in the alcoholic drink. And then that gets exacerbated when you're out with people that you don't really know, or maybe you just met, and you're in a place that you don't know, and it's
Right.
very scary. So all of those things for sure.
You've kind of got a whirlwind of different risk factors, new experiences coming together to create that sort of perfect storm to sort
Absolutely.
of be at risk.
Yeah, and I tell my students all the time, you're allowed to go out and have fun.
Yeah.
You are allowed to go out and explore downtown and have a drink with your friends. That doesn't give anyone the right to sexually assault you.
Absolutely. It doesn't matter what you were wearing, what you drank,
Yeah.
how you were acting. No one ever has a right to cross your boundaries.
Correct.
Right? That's such an important message for people to hear nowadays. And especially as we've been talking in this program about a training for bars and for nightlife venues to work on that bystander intervention piece, like you mentioned, to be aware of their surroundings and how to help potentially dangerous situations from happening. Where do you see the value in something like that, especially near campus for students who are going out?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's so much value in that, and I would absolutely love to see that in our restaurants. You know, any staff member at UCF, as much as we would love to be there, no matter where the students are, if they need help, the reality is that we're not. And we can train as many students as possible to be bystanders, but you can never have too many bystanders. So if we can get the bar staff at the local bars around the area, a really common place that UCF students go if they don't want to go downtown is this area called Waterford Lakes. And there's so many different restaurants and bars that they can explore, and they're amazing places. So if we have these bartenders who are trained, and if they see something, not only are they saying something, but they're doing something.
Right.
And hopefully that act of kindness will inspire someone else and just keeps going. So I think that'd be great, because then they're getting bystander intervention 360. They get it at UCF, then they get it when they go out.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe through their group of friends, or if they're out by themselves, hopefully that bartender, that bouncer, or other staff in that establishment can recognize signs of abuse, signs of potential drug facilitated, abuse or harm, and things like that.
Absolutely. Something we see a lot with our college students is, they're going out on first date.
Yeah.
And they're super excited for their first date. They tell all their friends, oh, we're going to meet at this public space. We're going to go to this bar or this restaurant at Waterford Lakes. So they are by themselves.
Yeah.
And they meet someone that they've never met before. And if that bar staff or server notices some signs, they can be that bystander for that person.
Right. Being able to recognize those potential signs leading up to drug facilitated sexual assault, or just red flags of potential abuse, or that somebody is drank too much or is really not in the space that they need to be, is so important.
Yes.
And it can be really difficult, obviously, for new students, for students who are dealing with a lot, to keep themselves safe in these times. And so we really do need to rely on these other sources, right, as well.
For sure.
So if there is a student who may be watching this, who may be going to UCF or campus elsewhere, right, what would you want them to know about keeping themselves safe while they go out and, have a great time, as they are allowed to go do? What would you say to them to, stay safe but have fun?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Olivia. I think, just like you said, and we mentioned earlier, you are allowed to go out and explore and have fun and have a drink, right? But there are some things that you need to be paying attention to, not just for yourself, but also being aware of your surroundings. And so the overall, the biggest thing I would talk to a student about would be consent, and what does that look like? Consent should be enthusiastic. It should be freely given. And so if you're looking at somebody and it looks like they're being force-fed drinks, then that could be a red flag. Same to you. If you feel like you're having to say yes to someone who's talking to you at a bar and you're not really comfortable, but you feel like you have to because you're being pressured, then that's a sign that, all right, maybe I need to walk away from this person or ask for help.
Right.
The second thing I would say is that it is 100% okay to ask for help. You are truly never alone, and even if you are by yourself in a new place you don't know, You can ask a stranger for help. You could ask other people in the bar for help. I've heard of really good bystander intervention scenarios where students have gone up to like a group of people that look like they know each other and they've pretended to be a part of that group. Some of my female students have asked like, hey, can you come to the bathroom with me?
Yeah.
Or you can pretend you know them from class. I mean, truly so many ways that you can get help.
Yeah.
And then the third thing I would say is let people know where you're going, right? People that you trust, let them know where you're going, what time you plan to be back, and just have an open line of communication with somebody. Of course, keep your phone charged.
Yes. Hate to be out on town alone with a dead phone.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Make friends with the bartender or the bouncer and let them know like, hey, I'm here by myself. I'm meeting someone on a first date.
Yeah.
Just a little bit nervous. Do you have any like safety measures in place? What have you?
Yeah.
And there are some restaurants, I know they're starting, that they might have different cues. I've heard about something called an angel shot.
Yes, we have definitely heard about an angel shot, and it's incredible that there are so many ways for if you are a person out in the town, going out and having a drink, you can order an angel shot, and your bartender will know, hey, I need help.
Yep.
Or you can go to a group of friends and say, hey, let me join your group real quick, or maybe go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And so it's great to know that there are some other ways that maybe we can be safe and be supported by others. And Laura, just to wrap us up today, if there's anyone who experiences violence out on the town, they're a UCF student, how do they get a hold of victim services?
Absolutely. So we have a 24/7 hotline and text line that they can contact. We also have a chat feature on our website that you can reach out to us. And even if you don't need our services, you might know someone who does.
Yeah.
And so you can always reach out to us confidentially, ask us any question you have. We are available 24/7. So if you're having these thoughts during the middle of finals week, during Thanksgiving break, whenever, we will always be here for you. And you are never alone.
Thank you so much for sharing this information today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. College students face some of the highest risks for sexual violence, and navigating nightlife, dating, and new social environments can make that risk even greater. It's why having strong resources like UCF Victim Services is so essential. Dr. Laura and her team are doing incredible work to make sure students never have to face those challenges alone, and to know that help is always within reach. But even with support and prevention efforts, there are still moments when harm occurs, when someone's night out ends in trauma instead of memories. And that's where another critical part of the response begins. After an assault, many survivors connect with a forensic nurse examiner, or FNE, a trained medical professional who provides compassionate care, evidence collection, and a path towards healing and justice. Up next, we'll talk with forensic nurse examiner Mary Yoder about what happens in those moments after an assault, the rise of drug-facilitated sexual violence, and what we can do to help keep Orlando's nightlife safe. Stay with us. Welcome back to Healing Begins Here. Throughout today's episode, we've been talking about Orlando's nightlife and how community partners from hospitality professionals to university services are working together to make these spaces safer for everyone. As we've discussed, prevention is key, but when an assault does happen, the next steps are critical to both the survivor's healing and the pursuit of justice. Joining us now is Mary Yoder, a forensic nurse examiner who provides specialized medical care and evidence collection for patients who have experienced sexual assault, including those impacted by drug-facilitated sexual assault. Mary, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So to start off, can you tell our audience what a forensic nurse examiner is, what you do, and what your role looks like when someone comes in after a sexual assault?
Yes, that one's easy. Thank you. Start out easy. So first we're a nurse, then we get training as a forensic nurse. We come in and do the medical assessment of the patient. So we're looking for injuries. A lot of times in drug facilitated, they have no idea if they even have injuries. A lot of times they're surprised when we're like, oh, you have a handprint here, or you've got a bruise here.
Right. Memory is not there necessarily.
Right. They have no idea during the assault what happened a lot of times.
Right.
So we're looking for the injuries, areas of pain, and then the possible evidence collection. So in a drug facilitated assault, a lot of times we kind of have to do it all, or at least offer it all to the patient, and explain to them, you have no idea where you were bit, licked. You know, we can use alternative light source and look for areas where maybe they were licked or bit, or other DNA evidence that might be there.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a head to toe.
Because they may not know exactly what happened or have
Yes.
that recount of the story.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it can be days before they feel the injury.
Wow. So drug-facilitated sexual assault is a term many people have heard, but many may not understand fully. Can you explain what drug-facilitated sexual assault means and how those cases might be a little different? Like you said, maybe we have to do a full body exam because they don't remember. So some instances like that.
So the definition is where you have, there's kind of two ways. So one is where someone has covertly put something into your drink or your food or whatever you have consumed that you were unaware.
Right.
The other way is more opportunistic for the perpetrator to have, where you're already out enjoying an evening for friends and you've had a little too much to drink. So they prey on you once you're already in a state where you can't give consent.
I see. So sexual assault being facilitated through a means of intoxication, whether sometimes being drugs or alcohol added or sneakily given to you, and then sometimes people are just out consuming and, you know, are preyed upon by someone who takes that opportunity.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep.
So from your experience, many survivors may choose not to report or not to come forward and share about, you know, being sexually assaulted. How does that get even more complicated when it is a drug-facilitated sexual assault?
So, because they don't remember, which is why that route is such a popular route for the perpetrators. They don't remember what happened, so they can't give a good account. Hey, I was out having a good time with my friends. Kind of maybe it's my fault.
Right.
So they start with some self-blame. They also might think people aren't going to believe them. Like,
Right.
what do you mean you don't remember having sex? Blah, blah, blah. So
Yeah.
it's it can be just a vicious combination of no one's going to believe me. I don't even know what happened.
Right.
So was a crime even occurred?
Right. But in reality, when they come in for services to you or to see a victim advocate, what should they be met with?
What should they be met with?
Like, as many people may not believe their story because either they were intoxicated or they don't remember. And so we see society and culture a lot of the time say, well, I don't believe you, you're making it up. And so what then instead could a survivor expect from professionals who are trauma informed?
So they're going to be believed.
Yeah.
We're going to actually help them through injury identification, putting together the pieces of the story they do remember. We're going to help them build back their memories.
Yeah.
And they do come. It takes, they say, a full sleep cycle
Right.
before you really start to think rationally and your memories start coming back, but they will. And once we've looked for the injuries, treated for STDs you could be
Right.
exposed to that you had no idea.
Right.
So those are the kinds of things that it's important to come in. Let us talk with you. Let us help you.
Yeah. So you're going to make sure that they're safe, you're going to make sure that there's any injuries that they're taken care of, and you're going to believe them, validate their experiences, even
Absolutely.
if they're not sure exactly what happened.
Exactly.
So technology and the modern dating culture has changed a lot of the ways people meet and go out for drinks or go on dates. So how have you seen dating apps and sort of technology play a role in drug-facilitated sexual assault?
So in general, I feel like the dating apps, the technology part, a lot of times our patients have already built an emotional connection with the perpetrator before they've even met them in person. So before they realize that it's not the hot young Navy guy who's just off the ship for the day or whatever, when they realize, you know, the creepy guy in the shed or whatever the scenario, they've already formed a bond with them. So then that becomes a part of the entanglement after this traumatic event. They kind of have to unpack all the attachment that they had already formed with this person and their shock and
Right.
the trauma of the whole
The manipulation, the trust, and all of that.
Yeah, how could it happen to me?
Yeah.
Like, he was such a nice guy. He, he had a puppy, and, he cooks, and, we've talked for 3 weeks or whatever.
So people who have experienced something like that, it's pretty easy for us to say, you're not alone. Many other people were fooled, were tricked, were abused through that manner. And so we've been talking this episode about a training Victim Service Center is working on to help train bars, nightlife venues on how to recognize maybe instances where someone is too intoxicated or potential cases of drug-facilitated sexual assault and prevent that. So where do you see, that value, and how is the importance of that early intervention by maybe that staff member or that bartender? How important is that?
Well, that can change the outcome of the evening in many situations. There's a secondary victim, that secondary trauma role also. So many times the cases come in and there was a friend with them for the night, and I just had no idea. She just walked out the back door with him for just a minute. I was watching her drink, whatever. And they actually become a secondary victim because of their guilt.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can't even come in with the patient. They either stay outside of the hospital or they stay at home because of the guilt.
Yeah.
So being able to say something early, alcohol hits you different depending on the day, like you said, whether you've eaten or, just how the day's going.
Right.
Sometimes it just hits you, and that's when a friend really has to step in and help when you can no longer. Yes.
Yeah. So we need our friends to be good bystanders, and we hope as well our staff, our bartenders serving us can be good bystanders as well. If they see something, we hope they come and say something.
That is the ultimate goal, is that we stop it before it becomes a crime.
Right. So finally, what would you like to say, or is there any information you'd like to share with survivors who may be afraid to come forward and say, hey, this has happened to me, I've experienced this? What are some words of encouragement you could offer to those folks?
So one important part is that this medical forensic exam that we do, there is no charge at the hospitals for the victim. They have victim
that's super important. Money
funds.
might keep people from coming forward, for sure.
Absolutely. So there are resources for that. So please come in. Please get checked out for yourself medically going forward. We don't want you to end up with infections or pregnancies or whatever that you don't want.
Yeah.
So come in and get checked. Let us help prevent those things, and then hook you up with the resources. So,
right.
But we're a team of believers.
So we'll start by believing, and we're here to help.
Absolutely.
Mary, thank you so much for being here today and for sharing about the work you do and for the work you do every day.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. The conversations that we've had today remind us that safety isn't just an individual responsibility. It's a community effort. Hospitality professionals, college campuses, and medical teams, and many other groups work together to create a safer nightlife in Orlando, and that safety starts with you too. Every person plays a role in creating a safer nightlife, even if it's just by checking in on the stranger you see stumbling up to the bar, or recognizing when something just isn't right and getting help. We all have the power to make a difference. The Victim Service Center is proud to continue our commitment to violence prevention through our new training program designed to equip staff in Orlando's bars and nightlife venues with tools to recognize red flags, step in safely, and prevent harm before it happens. If you're interested in bringing this free training to your venue or organization, please reach out to me directly at olivia.oropeza@victimservicecenter.org. Together, we can help prevent violence in Orlando's nightlife. As a reminder, the Victim Service Center is Central Florida's certified rape crisis center. We're here 24/7 to support victims and survivors of sexual assault, violent crime, and other traumatic experiences. If you or someone you know ever needs help, you can call our 24/7 helpline number at 407-500-HEAL or 407-500-4325. And remember, you are not alone.